As you know, my name is Kindson the Tech Pro, and today I'm going to be actually taking you on a Spring MVC tutorial step by step with no step skipped, and we are going to do it together. I have the procedure set up, so it's about 30 steps or thereabout, but I'm going to actually be a bit fast. I'm not going to take any breaks, so we are going to do it from now until we complete the application. And we are doing CRUD operations. CRUD means create, read, update, and delete. So we are going to create this application that have a list of students. We'll be able to insert a student, delete a student, update a student record, and delete a student. So this is what we are going to do. So please subscribe to my channel if you've not subscribed, because I'm actually taking my subscribers very seriously. You can see I've not really taken my supper because I just came back from meeting. Some of my subscribers have really mentioned that they really want to get up to speed with Spring. I have decided to make this. This is for beginners. If you are trying to learn Spring framework, how to actually use Spring framework to build applications that can store data and manipulate data, this is where you should be. So subscribe to my channel, click on the subscribe button, tell me that this video is okay for you, and tell me that you like it. That motivates me and helps me to make be more motivated to make more lessons for you. So we are going to get started right now. And in case you don't know, MVC means model view controller. Model means the data layer. The view means the interface, the client side. Controller means what holds the data and the controller together. In between the model, the data, and the client side, you have the controller. So we're actually mainly going to be building controllers here in this tutorial. So let's go ahead to get started. So the first thing we are going to do, I also recommend we have a method of, if we do a step, we mark it green. Any step we do, we mark it green. If you look at the description box, you'll find the step-by-step procedure here, and you can also find the source code. In case you miss out anything, just go ahead to check it. I don't recommend copying source code and pasting in the IDE. That will not help you to learn fast. I will recommend typing this code yourself. Possibly follow this video. If I'm too fast, pause it and try to do it yourself and come back to this lesson. So let's get started. Step 1, create new web project in Spring Initializer. Spring Initializer is simply allows you to create a framework or a new project. Let's put it that way. So go to start.spring.io. So at this point, I'm actually going to, this is start.spring.io. So I'm going to move it to this place, okay, so that you can see. So I'd like to call the name of the, so in start.spring.io, there are some things you need to specify. For instance, you need to specify the group name. The group name, you can just, also you can use my group name. You can also use anything you feel like. Kindson the Genius. So it's more like the com.kindson the Genius. It's more like the reverse of the domain name. All right. So the artifact ID is simply the name of the project. So I'm going to call it MVC Demo. That's the name of the project. And options MVC Demo. So demo project for MVC. All right. So this is fine. So the next thing you want to do is to come down here to dependency section. So here in dependency, you need to now specify the dependency we want to use. So the dependency we want to use here is web. So just type web and it searches out for this dependency. Let me try to increase the font size. Okay. So it is Spring Starter Web. So for sure, if I type MVC, it comes to Spring Starter Web. Say build web including RESTful applications using Spring MVC. All right. So at this point, I'm just going to click on generate project. So it generates this project as a zip file. So this zip file, I'm going to find it and I'm going to, this is MVC demo. I'm going to unzip it. And then I'm going to, actually, I can now move it to where I normally want to use it. So I'm going to copy it. So I have a folder I normally place Spring project. I call it Spring Boot. So let me just paste it there. All right. So what steps have we completed? I'm going to look at the procedure at this point to see. So we've created a new project. So I'm going to actually mark it as green here. So add web dependency, we've done that. So I'm going to mark it as green as well. Alright, so open the project in Spring Tool Suite. Spring Tool Suite is a free IDE for building Spring web projects or Spring project generally that uses Java programming language. So I'm going to come to Spring Boot and then I'm going to open this project in Spring Boot. So to do that, just go to File and just go to Open File. File and choose Open Project from File System, and I have a place I kept this project. I kept it here and I called it MVC demo. So simply select the folder and then click on Finish. Alright, so at this point we've created the project and opened it in Spring Tool Suite, as you can see. So one thing I like to do is the first thing I'm going to do at this point, so I'm going to open this project, go to src main.java, and you can see here, this is a package. Open it and you can see MVC demo application. So if I open it, you can see that it opens up. One thing I normally like to do is to increase the font size of my editor. So to do that, I'll simply go to Windows and go to Preferences, and from Preferences I can just expand this. I'm going to drop down on General, go to Editors and go to drop down as well and choose Text Editors and go to Colors and Fonts, go to Text and go to Edit, and at this point I like to use 14. Let's see, apply 14. Perfect. So I think 14 is okay. Let's see where we are in the stream of time. In the stream of our application time, we have to take step 4 that says create student resource in the resource package. Student resource is a REST controller, so request coming from the browser is going to come to student resource. Student resource is simply a Java file or a Java class. So I'm going to come here and say new and say class, and I'm going to call it student resource. And I'm going to put it in a package called resources. So just append resources here. Student resources, fine. Again, I would like to be looking at where we are. So at this point, I'm going to, maybe I'll just maybe try to keep this open side by side. So let's see. Let me see if I can keep the Microsoft Word document open side by side. Okay, so maybe I can just move it upwards here. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so let me just keep it this way. Alright. So this one I'm going to position it here. So in this way I'll have both of them open. So I'm going to collapse this to make some more room. Okay, so I'm going to collapse this as well. Good. Alright, so the next step is create a file called student resource, which I've done. The next step says annotate the class with address controller and at request mapping of CRUD demo, but I'm actually going to call it CRUD MVC. So at request mapping of REST controller simply recognizes this file as a REST controller. As I mentioned, the REST controller is like the endpoint. When request comes from the browser or from the client, it hits the REST controller and you tell the REST controller what it will do with any request coming. The next one, at request mapping, specifies the URL pattern that is going to lead to this file. So I'm going to add those two annotations. So I'm going to say at REST controller, and the next one is at request mapping of /CRUD MVC. In case you don't know, CRUD means create, read, update, and delete. So these are actions you perform, operations you perform on data. So to remove all these errors, just press Ctrl-Shift-O on your keyboard. Is going to import the namespaces that contain the mappings that we just added. The next step is write a method. I'm going to mark this as green. Write a method to return a string, and then we test it. So I'm going to say public string. Let's say get name. Let's say get name. We are going to change it. Get name. Let's say get students, because eventually we are going to be creating list of students. Get students, and now I'm going to just return a string. So return Python the row. Okay, so all right. So we are going to annotate these with request mapping of /student. So I'm going to say at request mapping of /students. Alright, so the next step is to test the method. So I'm going to mark this as green, and I'm going to now test the method. To test it, I'm simply going to run this program. So to run it, I'm going to come here and right click and just say run as and choose Spring Boot application. Alright, so save everything. So the intention is when I go to my browser and go to localhost port 8080 /MVC demo /student, I should be able to get this string that says Kyneton the Tech Pro. So I hope you understand it. I think it should be clear at this point. So let's check that it's running. So it says, let me see. So you can see Tomcat started on port 8080, as you can see right here. So I'm going to go to port 8080 and try to run this application. So I'm going to say http:/localhost port 8080 /CRUD MVC/students. All right, so you can see it's working perfectly. So let's move to something else right now. The next step is create the student class in the models package. All right, so we go to create the student class in the models package, simply add a new class. So simply say new class, and I'm going to call it students, and it's going to be in the models package. To put it inside the models package, just say here is say dot models. So I'm creating a package called models as well on the fly. So say finish. So this student class, a student should have ID. So I'm going to say string ID, string name, and string department. Alright, so I'm going to add an empty constructor, public students. Okay, so there is just an empty constructor. For other constructors, I'm going to generate them. So to generate the other constructor, just right click and go to source and choose generate constructor using fields and just say generate. Perfect. So I don't like to see this super, it makes it complicated. The next thing I'm going to do is to add the getters and setters. So just right click and go to source and choose generate getters and setters. You can see here, and I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to just say complete. All right, so you can see that we have our student class created. So at this point, I'm going to mark this as green. The next step says create a hard-coded list of students in the student resource class. So we are going to create a hard-coded list of students in the student resource class. Yeah, so I'm just going to say students hard-coded list of students. I'm going to call it students equal to arrays.arsList. So at this point, so let's see. All right, so we are going to create a hard-coded list of students here. So I don't know why this always behaves this way. Alright, so you say new students. It takes ID, let's say X1, and the name is Kindson, and the department is software. Alright, we create another one. New students X2, name is Saffron, and department is accounting. And let's finally create the last one. New students S3, the name is Emeka, and department is, let's say, management. Okay. Alright, so we've created a hard-coded list of students. So I'm going to just Control-Shift-O to import the namespaces. What do we have here? Okay, I'm going to take all this. I'm going to put a semicolon at this point. Arrays.atList, import arrays. Perfect. So I think everything is fine. So I'm going to just mark this as done. We've created a hard-coded list of students. Modify the getStudent method to return list of students. So I'm going to simply come here and say return students. Alright, so return students. So at this point it's going to return list of students. So I'm going to change the return type to list of students. Okay, so we've done this. The next step is for us to create a business service. Now this is important. Let me explain to you briefly what business service is all about. So business service is a class that has objects that are created, has objects created only once. So when you call new student, anytime the code runs, is creating a new student. But that is not what we want. We want an instance of a student to be created, and anytime it's needed, the student service will provide it. So it will help us avoid always instantiating new objects every time. So the student service will instantiate the object once, and then when it's needed, it injects it. That is the principle of dependency injection. So there are two things. We have two annotations that support dependency injection, or dependency that enable dependency injection. We have auto-wired, we have at service, and we have at bin. Today we are going to be using at service annotation, as I'm going to explain a little more as we move along. So create a business service, a class called student service, in the resources folder and annotate it with a service annotation. So I'm going to go to resources folder. Hope I can find the resources folder. So yeah. So I'm going to just say new class, and I'm going to call it student service. Okay, so student service, I'm going to annotate it with at service annotation. So that makes it that this class becomes now a single thing, becomes a service that provides objects that are only instantiated once. So I'm going to say at service. Okay, I'm going to say Control-Shift-O to take out Control-Shift-O. Okay, that I don't know. So let's say at service class. So I'm going to first save it. Okay, it requires that I save it at this point. So yeah, perfect. So create a business service. We've done it perfectly. Auto-wire the business service into the student resource class. So to auto-wire it, to make this service available to be used by the student resource, we are going to auto-wire this service into the student resource class, so that this service can provide us with any object we need anytime we need it, so that we can't be creating object by ourselves. The service can create it for us and give it back to us anytime. So I'm going to come to student resource. To auto-wire it into this place, what I'm going to simply do is to create a private member variable of type student service. So I'm going to say private student service, private student service student service. All right, perfect. So I'm going to auto-wire it. So to auto-wire it, simply add auto-wire annotation. That means that this class here, where we have this private member variable, can use this service. So we say add auto-wired. All right. So again, Control-Shift-O. Everything is okay. Okay, let's see where we are in the stream of time of our application time. So we've done this. Move the hard-coded list of students into the student service. So I'm going to move the hard-coded list into the student service so that we don't create it ourselves. We simply, when we need it, we ask the student service to give it to us. So I'm going to put it right here, Control V. And when we need it, we are going to, let me close up a few things. For instance, I'm going to close this. So it's here in student service, okay? And then what next? I'm going to move the hard-coded list. I've moved it. Create get all. This is not get all topic. Get all students method in student service and make it return the hard-coded list of students. So I'm going to say public get all students. So public list of students. Okay, so this I'm going to make it return All right, perfect. So where are we now? So I'm going to complete this. In the student resource, make the get students method call get all student method on the student service class. So let's go to the student resource. Now we are going to call from the student resource, call the service to call the get all student function from the service. So we are asking the service, please give us list of students. So we are not going to be doing it ourselves. We are simply telling the service to give it to us. So I'm going to say students service dot get all students. Perfect. Okay. So that I've done perfectly. Write a method get student by ID to return particular student in the student service class using stream API. Okay, let's go to the student service. So now we want to return just one single list of students or one single student. If we take the ID, we return a single student. So I'm going to say public students get students by ID takes a string variable of student ID and is going to return a single student. Now we are going to use something called stream API to filter the list of students to extract student with particular ID. So to do that, you simply say, I'm actually going to, okay, let me make it simpler. So you say student S is equal to students dot stream. So this is where the stream API comes into play. Okay, student is a stream dot filter. So we are going to filter the students. So I'm going to say students. I used to say such that students such that the ID that is the parameter is equal to an ID, what is this? That equals an ID in the student we found. So student.get ID. All right, so we are not done. So I'm going to say dot find any. We are not done. Dot or else. In case it doesn't find anything, it simply returns a null value. All right, so why do we have error here? So we now have to return X. Alright, so this is how to use the Stream API to search out for a particular student in a list of students. So we've done this. So the next thing we want to do is to now the next step is write the getStudentById method in the student resource now. So we are going to write this same method in the student resource file. For this method, we simply call the student service to get this item. So the operation is actually performed in the service. The resource or the resource file is simply asking the service, please give me. So that is the resource file will always be calling the service. So I'm going to make it easier, I'm going to just go to the service and just maybe copy this. Okay, let me just copy everything. We copy and go to student resource and just I'm going to paste it. But this time we are not going to perform this operation. We are simply going to ask the service to give us this list. So I'm going to say this particular student. So I'm going to say students service dot get student by ID, and I have the ID passed in, and that is okay. But now where is this ID coming from? Remember, the student resource class handles requests coming from the browser. So requests coming from the browser is always coming from the URL. User types in something into the URL. So it means that this ID should be coming from the URL, like a URL parameter. So URL parameters are called path variable, URL variables, URL parameter, either way. So to tell this function that this parameter is coming from the URL path, you use an annotation called @path variable. So I'm going to say @path variable, and the name of the path variable will be the name of the variable you are passing in. So this path variable is this path variable here. So again, Control-Shift-O to take out this error. Alright, so we've done this. I'm going to mark it as green as well. Annotate with our path variable the ID. I've done that. Write the addStudent method to post a student to the repository, and write the addStudent to post a student to the repository. Alright, so to add a student to do this, we are simply, meanwhile, we need to add a request mapping to this. So we have request mapping. So to get a single student, we are going to go to /students/ ID. So putting ID in curly braces means this ID can change anytime. That's why we need to put it in curly braces. So we've written the get. So now let's write a add student to add a new student. So it's a public void, because after adding a student we are not returning anything. So add student. So to add a student we need a student object. So I'm going to say student. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to first, let's check where we are so that we don't keep making any mistakes. So this is student. Annotate it with @post mapping. Yeah. So basically, I think I'm making some mistakes. So instead of saying request mapping, I'm going to just say get mapping. So as well, here I'm going to say get mapping. So here I'm going to say @post mapping, and to add a new student we are going to go to /students, and yes, to go to /student because we are trying to add a student to the collection of students we have. So this is where we are. Now the student data we want to add, more like we are filling a form of student and clicking on insert or save or done or OK. So this will come from the body. Normally it's called form data, but now we are not filling a form, we are working with API, so we don't have any form to fill. So this will be coming, this student data will be coming from the request body. So to tell Spring that this data, student data will be coming from the request body, we are going to annotate the student with at request body parameter. So I'm going to say at request body. All right. So Control Shift O, everything goes fine. All right. So we've done this add student at request body parameter. Now the add student method calls the add student method in the student service. We've not written that anything about add student anywhere, but let me assume that we've written it in the service. Or let's just start writing it. So I'm going to say students service dot add students, and I'm going to say students. All right, so I assume we have it there, but it's not there. So, but for now, and next we will write this method in the student service class. So to do that, I'm going to put my mouse where we have this arrow, and it says create method add students. So I'm going to come here. All right, so I'm going to write the add student method in the student service class. So I'm going to write the add student. So I'm going to simply say students dot add students. So it's as simple as that. So I'm going to simply add a new student I have. But to be able to add, because this array is immutable, I'm going to simply say array list. I'm just going to say new array list. All right. So so that's what ensures that we can add anything into that place. So I'm going to just say Control Shift O. Now, wait, why do we have this error? Add type to array list. Okay, so all right. Okay, so now you can actually test it, but I don't have much time. So let me just write all the methods, then we test everything at once. All right. But in the procedure, you can pause this video, follow the procedure, and test it. All right. So now the procedure says write this method. I've done this. This is step 22. I'm going to save everything, and I think there is no error so far. Install Postman REST clients or advanced REST clients. So this is simply a Google Chrome plugin that you can simply add to Google Chrome. So to do it, simply go to your browser and simply, let me just leave this place open and simply go to advanced REST clients. So if you come here, you can see advanced REST clients. So you can always just install it. So you can see I have launch app because I've already installed it. For you, you will not see launch app, you'll be seeing install. So just go ahead to install it. So I'm going to just launch app. So launch state, so what is happening? Okay, perfect. So it opens up. I'm going to go to port 8080 and try to get list of students. So we have http /localhost port 8080 /CRUD MVC /students, and now I'm going to set the method to be get, and I hope to get list of students. It says kinds on the Tech Pro. Okay, because I've not actually refreshed this application, so I'm going to refresh it by clicking here or relaunch it. So if everything goes well, let's see. Okay, you can see Tomcat static. So I'm going to go to send, and you can see that we have list of students, 3 students here. Now I'm going to try to get a single student, and I'm going to say / let's say S2, and I'm going to say send. So you can see it gets a single student. that has that ID S2. Okay, let's try to insert a new student to add a fourth record. So I'm going to copy the body because we need to have a request body that contains the particular student data we want to add. So to add the request body, simply go to set this to post, and this is where we want to make the request, and go to request body, and I'm going to paste it. Now let me add a student. I'll just call this my subscriber. That is you. So hopefully you've subscribed and you are my subscriber. So I'm going to say my subscriber, and your department is Spring. Okay, let's say you're an IT professional. Let's just leave it the ID. Let's set the ID to be S4. So I'm going to click and send, and it says okay. So if I go back to use a get request, hopefully it will get 4 records. As you can see, now I have 4 records. So our post method is working. Now we are going to write the delete method, and we are going to write the push method. So let's go do it. Alright, so let me get the list of items we are working with. We've gone so far. I'm really proud of you. If you come to this point, you are really doing great. Install Postman REST client. Hopefully you've done that. If this video is informative for you, let me know. Leave me a comment and let me know it's informative for you. Alright, test the application. I've tested it and everything is okay. Modify the student service to new array list, which is mutable. Remember, I did it. I'm actually just rushing over this. But for you, take your time. Pause this video. Make sure you do it step by step. So me, I'm too fast because I'm hungry. I've only eaten a single egg, and I need to go to my kitchen to prepare something to eat. And you can see my room is a bit not tidy. So retest the application. I'm going to come here and say the next one is step 27. Write the update student method in the student resource file. So let's go to student resource, and we are going to why do we have this? But it works. Why then is it giving us error? Okay, anyway, I'm actually going to ignore it because it's a error message in the buffer. So I'm going to say public void. So if we're updating a student, it's not returning anything. So the return type for update is going to be void, more like the same as the post method. So I'm going to say update student. Now the instruction says that okay, let me complete this first. The instruction says use a put mapping to update. You use put. We have get, post, put, and delete. So to update, we use put. So let me shift this in a bit up. So I'm going to say this time we say put mapping, and we are going to go to /students /students. We are trying to edit one single student record. So we are trying to update a student with the ID that is in the URL. So the ID of the student has to be in the URL, and the update you want to make, the changes we want to make will now be in the body. So more like you're filling a form, but you are trying to edit a record and save it. So the body of the request will contain the updates you want to make. So what it means is that we are going to have string ID, and then we also have student. So we need 2 parameters: student record of the update we want to make, and then ID is the ID of the particular student. We need to search for it, get it, and modify it and save it back, right? Everything is clear. Now this ID is coming from where? It's coming from the path variable. So I'm going to annotate it with path variable of ID. Okay, so I'm going to actually shift this a little bit backwards. And then we are going to also annotate. So at this point, I'm going to shift this a bit down so that we have some room. I'm going to annotate. I'm going to annotate the student parameter with at request body. So this is coming from request body. All right. So what are we missing out? Why do we have this error here? So everything is fine. So let's now write this function. So this we are going to call update student in this that is in the service. Although we've not written it, but let's assume we've written it. We call it and later we go to write it. So I'm going to say student service dot update students, and we are going to give it ID and the student you want to update. Perfect. All right. Put marking. So here we have Control Shift O. Take out this error. Okay. So syntax error here. Why? Okay. So we don't have comma here, so I take it out. All right. So now this method update does not exist, so let's go ahead to add it. So I'm going to say create method update students in student service. So all right, so how do we write this method actually, because we are still working with list of students, hard-coded list of students, but since we are able to add a student to this list, we can also update a student record in this list. So what we are going to do, we are going to follow the kind of method. We are going to search through this list. If we find the student record with the ID, then we are going to use the new student to set the department and set the name. We are not updating the ID, we are updating the name and the department, because IDs, you don't always have to update IDs, because as a primary key, you don't need to update it. So, all right, so I'm going to say for, I'm going to look through the students and then search out a student with the ID we are passing in. So I'm going to say for students S in students, okay, for students S in students. Now I'm going to say if s.id is this ID that is passing. So if this ID that we have as parameter equals to s.id, let me make it so that it's uniform. So if id dot equals s dot get id, if this is true, if this is true, I think everything is fine. Then what I'm going to do is to then update the record, this student record, update the ID and the department. So I'm going to say s dot set departments. I'm going to say students dot get department. So I'm setting the departments of this student, this record we found, with the department that is in the body of the students that we have. So we search out a student from the list, and we already have a student we want to use to update. So we are using the student that we have as parameter, passing parameter, to update, to set the value of existing student record. So I'm going to set the department, and I'm going to say set name dot set name, and I'm going to say students dot get name. All right. So at this point, I should have my update student working. I'm going to save everything. I'm not going to test it right now because I want to complete writing the delete method before I test it. But now I'm going to mark this as green. So write the delete method. So this delete method will also work in the same way. Write the delete method in the student resource file. So it takes the ID of the student you want to delete and simply deletes it using the remove if method of the of the array list. So save everything, and I'm going to go back to the student resource. This time we are trying to write. Why do we have this error? Okay, so we're going to say okay, so I think I'm missing out something. All right. So on to updates now. So to reduce the time, I'm simply going to copy this. Oh no, not copy. Undo. So I'm going to copy it and paste it, and then we modify it to manually delete. So now we want to call it delete students. Delete students. And then I'm going to say student service.delete student. Although I've not written this method in the student service, I'm using it, and so we can go to write it. So this makes it easier because I can just click create class, and it will give me the definition of that class in the student service. So let me, at this time, if we're working with delete, we don't need request body. We don't need request body. We only need the path variable, which is the ID. All right, so I'm going to take out this. All right, so /students/id. So /students/id, we provide the ID we want to delete and the path variable, and then it deletes it. So I'm going to come here and they create method delete students in the student service. Okay, so in student service now I've generated this method, like using the same ID. Let me check something here. Okay, so everything is fine. So now again we are going to use, let me try, I think we can use remove if. So I can say students dot remove if. Okay, so student dot remove if. Student dot remove if students. Sorry, let me get it right. Dot remove if so if students such that this ID equal to the ID of that student, so that equals, you're right, so I'm going to say equals students dot get ID, right? All right. All right, so why do we have error here? I think I have so many, okay, so many closing brackets. So I'm going to mark this as done. Mark it as green. I'm going to mark this as green as well. Test everything. All right, so we are going to test everything now. We are going to get, we are going to insert, we are going to update, we are going to delete. Let's now do it and see if it works. After we check it out and it works, we are going to actually celebrate with a bottle of wine. So let's see. I'm going to just come here and click on relaunch and relaunch the project again. We have error. So it says there is already student resource being method. Okay, so we have a problem here. Updates, then there is already an update thing. So let's go to student service. So we have delete student request mapping put. So this actually should be delete mapping. All right, so I'm going to, all right. What are we missing out? Okay, so I'm going to save everything. I'm going to relaunch this application again. Let's see. Okay, so you can see that now it says Tomcat started on port 8080. Let's now go ahead to use REST web client to test everything and make sure everything is okay. So I'm going to test get students. It gives me a list of students. I'm going to get student by ID /s2, and it gives me a single student. I'm going to now modify this my record. I've changed myself to software from Kindson to Kindson the Tech Pro. So I'm going to go to do it sports and /s2, that is me. Request body, and I'm going to just go to Ctrl V. Instead of using Kindson, I'm going to use Kindson, let's just say the Tech Pro, and then my department, let's call it CS. Alright, I'm going to science, says 200, okay, so let's test it by selecting everything again by using gates. So gates, science, so you can see it updated. So you have the Tech Pro and department in CS. So let's now delete a student. Let's now delete a student. Let me delete this student. So S3, so I'm going to do a delete to /student/S3. So send. Perfect. So if I go to check, so now I have to set it to get, so everything is fine. So I'm going to add a new student. This time I'm going to just copy this, I'm going to post a new student record in there. Then the body is going to be okay. So let's say S4, and the name is going to be meals, and meals department is economics. Alright, so I'm going to send, and everything is fine, and I'm going to test it using a get request. So you can see the new one we inserted right here. Alright, so now we've come to the ends of this class. So we've been able to do get, update, delete, and get, update, delete, and insert. So we follow the procedure, and let's just make sure everything is green right here. So as you can see, everything is right green. We followed 31 steps. I don't know how long, but we've completed it. So I would like to thank you for viewing. We actually have not persisted this data using any data persistence framework or module. In the next tutorial, I'm going to now show you how to persist data using a particular database that is available in Spring Boot and in memory, and something called in-memory database, maybe H2, maybe some other database, Couchbase or something. Also, I would like to remind you to subscribe to my channel, and I'd like to tell you, if you have anything you want to say, leave it as a comment for me below this video. Let me now go and take my supper, because I've not really taken my supper. Again, I'd like to thank you for viewing. You are very special to me. I'm proud of you if you've come this far, and then we see you in the next lesson. Thank you.